Next time is next time, and now is now. That is, of course, from Wim Wenders' Perfect Days, a beautiful movie I recently watched. A 2023 film about a toilet cleaner in Tokyo whose main protagonist really embraces and engages the idea of the present moment and finding beauty in every day. And this line of next time is next time and now is now comes at a point in the movie when the main character is on this bridge with his niece and they're looking at the river. And the niece asks about the river and asks, "Does it run to the ocean?" The protagonist says, "Yes, it does." And then the niece, she says, "Well, let's go. Let's do it. Let's go to the ocean. Let's follow it to the ocean." And he responds with, "Next time is next time, and now is now." A beautiful sentiment, recognizing that all there is right now. So we should be here and right now. It's not to say we shouldn't make plans. But next time is next time, and now is now. All right, we are back again. Now, I missed a week, and the reason for that is that last week I kind of just didn't feel like making a video, This is a creative outlet for me, and, I want it to be fun, and if I just don't feel like doing it, I'm not going to do it. So that's why we missed last week. That said, we are back. I've been talking about it for a couple months. Back in March, I went to Japan. I picked up 4 Gundams. I was into Gundam when I was younger, and it was a lot of fun and cool, and it still is in its own way, But, what drew me back really to the Gundams was nostalgia. Now, when I was a kid, the customization and, painting of Gundams, that was not in my view. It may have been a thing, 20, 25 years ago, but I've more seen it as a thing recently with not necessarily a resurgence, because I don't think it ever went anywhere, but at least on YouTube, people talking about gunpla and Gundam and these Gundam competitions where you customize them and paint them yourselves. So once again, none of that was in my view as a child, but now I'm painting Warhammer these days, and Gundam came back into view through YouTube, and I picked up some Gundams, and I decided I was going to paint them like I paint my Warhammer miniatures. Now, when I got to painting the Gundams, I really quickly realized, the painting was not as fun as painting wargaming miniatures. So this got me, thinking pretty quickly, what is so different about the painting of this thing opposed to another thing that is just, this model that is like an articulate action figure type thing, opposed to painting these based miniatures, these stagnant things on a base. They don't move. What's the difference? And then, through that, it helped me discover what I like about painting, and specifically what types of things I like to paint. So with these Gundams, they're scale-wise, they're relatively similar to Warhammer and most tabletop war games. Ultimately, there shouldn't be a huge difference, but there is a huge difference, and one of those things is quite simply a base. I talked about this in my Big Bot Bash, and how the base it's really important to me, or it's at least important for my sensibility. I like this thing that contextualizes the thing that I am painting. With wargaming miniatures, every single one is like a little vignette of that character or that time period, you know, the day in the life. You know, even if you're doing the most like simple basing of dirt and a tuft, you know, like you're contextualizing it in a space at scale, and that is really cool to me. And you can do this with Gundams. You can make like a diorama, and all that, you know. But I don't know. That's not really my interest. So yeah, in this process, I just got to find some like interesting contrast between a similar but different hobby. You know, you're both ways you're building a model, both ways you are painting or emphasizing that model with paint. But at the end of the day, you have two different purposes for these things that you're building and painting. While there is games out there that I know people have created, and I've even thought about like creating some sort of 1 1/44 scale miniature war game, kind of in the vein of like bolt action and like one-page rules, like a simplified thing, you know, so I can use my Gundams as like a gaming piece. You know, I have thought of that, and I know others have already created systems, but I don't know. I guess that's just like an extra step. But with wargaming miniatures, they already have a purpose. They have their bases, they have a rule set, typically have their lore. And I'm not trying to be like lazy about it, but I don't know. I just prefer to engage in this miniature modeling space in the context of a game. And when it comes to my miniatures, other than I guess like tanks and stuff, I like my stuff to be on a base, you know, because once again, it provides context. It's a little vignette, kind of grounding this character or unit or thing in a place and a scale. So yeah, I don't know that I really want to paint any more Gundams. My plan was to paint the 4 that I bought, but I painted the 1. I was just like, I don't really want to keep doing this, you know, for the reasons that I've gone over. And I like wargaming miniatures. I like the bases. Most of the time, I prefer like a stagnant pose, and the idea of playing out a war game. And you know, with the Gundams, that's just a lot of that just doesn't exist. And I know there's a hex style Gundam game that's going to be coming out, which might be interesting. I'm willing to check it out, but I don't know. The hex games are kind of funky. You know, I've played like BattleTech, and it was really cool. It's interesting the way they get into things. You know, it was a fun game, and there was a lot of sense to it, and I liked it. But it's also still just not my jam. You know, I like the lack of constraint of, not that the tiles are just like horribly constraining you. You know, in a miniature war game, you're constrained by measurements. I like the simplicity of just moving like an inch or centimeter variant, and that's it. And I don't like being constrained to this little tile. It's a small thing. It's largely inconsequential, but I don't know. You know, we like what we like, and I don't like hexes. I like to be able to move freely. All that to say, Gundams, very cool. The models, fucking crazy. The engineering that goes into making them articulate the way they can articulate is fascinating and really fun and exciting to kind of interact with as you build the model. But painting it, not my thing. Warhammer, wargaming, that is my thing. I enjoy painting those miniatures, even if seemingly it's just the context, lore, nature of the game that makes it more interesting for me to paint, you know. With that said, you know, I have been working on a ton of shit. I mentioned in the last video, I'm feeling a little overwhelmed with the amount of stuff I have. So I'm just jumping on the pile and knocking out as much as I can right now. After Valhalla, I was super stoked on bolt action. I still am. I mentioned it before. I got free models from that event, and then I've gotten some Conflict 47 stuff, which is very exciting, very fun. It's like a sci-fi riff on the bolt action realm, so I'm super stoked on that. I don't know what it is. It really hits like a sweet spot. the World War II aesthetic, and it's very cool in and of itself. But then when you throw this kind of diesel punk, steampunk, whatever, sci-fi, futuristic mechs and stuff like that, when you throw that in there with it, it's good. I'm having a good time with it. Really excited to get into more bolt action, and then eventually into Conflict 47, because I haven't actually played Conflict yet, only bolt action. But yeah, other than the Conflict and bolt action stuff, I have been reinvigorated with 40k Death Guard. I'm working on the 30k Death Guard still, but with all we got the new Death Guard codex and cards and Combat Patrol and Battle Force that all came out. I picked up the codex, got the cards, picked out the Combat Patrol, because other than the Marines, I didn't have any of that, so it was a good buy. And then you always need more Marines, so it worked out. It was good stuff. So very super stoked for the Death Guard. And speaking of Death Guard, I'm not just like jumping on the bandwagon of newness. I actually played them with their Index Codex, and it was one of the funnest games I've played. It was so cool. The Death Guard are fucking rad. Yeah, so I don't know. I'm excited. I got Death Shroud. I've got the Lord of Virulence. I've got him. I've got the Tallyman. Very excited for the Death Shroud, though. The scythe aesthetic it's good. I love it. So yeah, Death Guard, bolt action, Conflict 47. I'm cranking away on this stuff, just trying to get it done. And not like I'm not enjoying this process and I'm just grinding through it. Like I have a lot of it, and I want to play the games, and I want to paint the stuff, and I want to build it, and I want to see it all. So I'm just pushing into it. I'm going for it. So, and I'm having a good goddamn time. But hey, what about you? What are you working on these days, you know? Are you a Gundam fan? Or maybe you have the same story I had. You know, you were super into Gundams as a kid. You fell out of them. Then you got into wargaming. And then maybe you went back to Gundams. What was your experience going back? You know, did you dig it? Or were you like me, where you're kind of like, this is cool, but yeah, just not my thing. You know, it's not what I like to paint or engage with anymore, you know? Still appreciate it for what it is, but it's just not my thing. But yeah, I don't know. Let me know. Let me know what you thought. If you liked this video, give it a like. If you got something to say, you know, let me know down in the comments. Share your experience. Share your experience about Gundams. About going after things for the sake of nostalgia. You know, for me, like, the Gundams was really a nostalgia thing. You know, I remember like 9, 10 years old just watching Gundam Wing on Toonami and just being like, this is fucking cool. And I got the models back when I was a kid, and they even put out the action figures. I got those too. Don't have any of it now except for the stuff that I bought. But I loved it. So let me know what you think, what your experience is. And of course, if you dug this video and you want to see more like it, be sure to subscribe. I make a video weekly, every Monday. You know, with my travels and stuff, I've been getting in the sort of the habit of putting a video out every other week. So I think I might start to adopt that, just for the sake of rest, of maintaining my stoke, and also just like fleshing out ideas a little better and more fully, and providing you with some delightful, entertaining content that is more hit than miss. But yeah, I think that's going to be it for me for now. Like, comment, subscribe. If you made it this far, I appreciate you watching. I will see you next week, and I hope you have a great week. So, we'll see you around. Peace. Today is May 19, 2025. Here are 7 dice. Today's numbers are on the D20, 7. On the D12, 9. On the D10, 10. On the percentage die, 100. On the D8, 3. On the D6, 5. And on the D4, 1. Those are today's numbers. It's largely inconsequential. Goddamn. The Lord of, let me try and say this. I have such a hard time saying this word, but virulence. The Lord of the Lord of virulence. The Laird of virulence.